Hi, my name is AJ, and today we're going to be looking at a journey of oxygen from air to cells. And this is basically the journey of an oxygen molecule from the external environment to the cells of the body. Imagine yourself taking a deep breath after a long day and feeling the refreshing surge of air filling your lungs. Today, we're going to be looking at the moment your oxygen enters through the respiratory tract and the crucial role it has in fueling the activities of our cells. Understanding this journey is fundamental to appreciating the intricacies of human physiology and the vital importance of respiratory function for our overall health and well being. As we go into detail about how oxygen molecules navigate through the respiratory system and bloodstream, we'll uncover the remarkable mechanisms that enable our bodies to efficiently extract oxygen from the air we breathe and deliver it to every cell in need. So let's get started. First, we'll look at the anatomy of the respiratory tract. So we have six specific parts of the respiratory tract that we're going to look at, and it starts off with our nose. Our journey with oxygen begins as air enters through our nostrils and passes through the nasal cavity. The nose acts as a filter, humidifier, and warmer for the incoming air, while also containing receptors for our sense of smell. The pharynx is the second one, and it's from the nasal cavity. Air travels through the pharynx, a common pathway for both air and food, and the pharynx serves as a junction between the nasal and oral cavities and leads to the larynx, which is number three. We have the larynx, which is often referred to as the voice box and contains the vocal cords. It plays a crucial role in preventing food or liquid from entering the lower respiratory tract. Fourth in the list, we have the trachea, or windpipe, and it's the rigid tube composed of cartilage rings that connects the larynx to the bronchi. It serves as a conduit for air to travel to and from the lungs, protecting the respiratory passages and facilitating the passage of air. Number five, we have the bronchi, and these are all depicted in the pictures below. The bronchi is when the trachea divides into two main bronchi, one leading to each lung. These bronchi further divide into smaller bronchioles, which branch out into the lungs and ultimately lead to the alveoli. As you can see in the picture, they look like literal tree branches. And six, last but definitely not least, we have the lungs. The lungs are the primary organs of respiration, where the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide happens. They're composed of lobes and are surrounded by a protective membrane called a pleura. Now, I particularly want to zoom in on one of the most critical sites within the respiratory system, the alveoli and the pulmonary capillaries. This microscopic structures are where gas exchange takes place. And first, we're going to look at the alveoli. So, the alveoli is like a tiny grape like cluster of sacs at the end of the bronchioles within the lungs. These air filled sacs are lined with a single layer of epithelial cells and are surrounded by an extensive network of pulmonary capillaries. The alveoli provide a large surface area for gas exchange to occur efficiently. Now, we'll look to your right at the pulmonary capillaries. Surrounding each alveolus is a dense network of capillaries, which are the smallest blood vessels in the body. These capillaries have extremely thin walls, allowing for rapid exchange of gases between the air in the alveoli and the blood in the capillaries. So, for a better understanding of what these two do and how gas is exchanged, the interaction between the two of these is essential for maintaining the delicate balance of oxygen and CO2 levels in the bloodstream. Oxygen from inhaled air diffuses across the thin alveolar walls and into the adjacent capillaries, where it binds to hemoglobin molecules in red blood cells for transport throughout the body. At the same time, CO2, a waste product of cellular metabolism, diffuses from the bloodstream into the alveoli to be exhaled. This exchange of gases occurs via simple diffusion, driven by differences in partial pressures of oxygen and CO2 between the air in the alveoli and the blood in the capillaries. The highly specialized structure of the alveoli and pulmonary capillaries ensures that this process can occur rapidly and efficiently, enabling our bodies to continuously replenish oxygen supplies and remove CO2 waste within each breath, giving us the ability to breathe.
Gas exchange in the alveoli. Now we are going to get into the heart of respiratory physiology, alveoli, and the process of gas exchange that occurs within these tiny air sacs. Alveoli structure. Alveoli are microscopic air sacs clustered at the ends of the bronchioles within the lungs. These grape-like clusters provide an enormous surface area for gas exchange, essential for efficient oxygen uptake and carbon dioxide removal. Pulmonary capillaries. Surrounding each alveolus are networks of pulmonary capillaries, where blood undergoes gas exchange. These capillaries have thin walls that allow for diffusion of gases between the bloodstream and the alveoli. Oxygen diffusion. As air enters the alveoli during inhalation, oxygen molecules move across the thin alveolar membrane into the surrounding capillaries. This diffusion occurs due to the concentration gradient, with oxygen moving from an area of higher concentration in the alveoli to an area of lower concentration from the capillaries. Gas exchange. Carbon dioxide diffusion. Simultaneously, carbon dioxide diffuses from the bloodstream into the alveoli. This waste gas is then exhaled during exhalation, completing the exchange process. Role of surfactant. Alveoli are lined with the surfactant, which is a substance that reduces surface tension with the alveoli. This surfactant prevents the collapse of alveoli during exhalation. ensuring that they remain open and available for gas exchange. Optimization of gas exchange. The structure of the alveoli and the arrangement of the pulmonary capillaries are optimized for efficient gas exchange. This ensures that oxygen is rapidly absorbed into the bloodstream while carbon dioxide is efficiently removed from the body. Transport of oxygen in the bloodstream. Hemoglobin in red blood cells binds oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin, facilitating efficient oxygen transport. The oxygen dissociation curve illustrates how hemoglobin's affinity for oxygen changes based on factors like pH, temperature, and carbon dioxide levels. Various physiological factors regulate oxygen release to match tissue metabolic needs. Oxygen-rich blood travels through arteries to tissues where oxygen is released for cellular respiration. Simultaneously, red blood cells transport carbon dioxide back to the lungs for exhalation, ensuring continuous gas exchange. And as you can see in the diagram below, the oxygen from the lungs then bonds to hemoglobin and then is released to the tissue cells.
The pulmonary veins are a network of blood vessels that carry oxygen-rich blood from the lungs back to the heart. Unlike the other veins in the body that carry deoxygenated blood, the pulmonary veins are unique in that and they transport oxygenated blood. As blood flows through the pulmonary capillaries surrounding the alveoli, oxygen molecules diffuse into the bloodstream and bind to hemoglobin within red blood cells. This oxygenated blood is then collected by the pulmonary veins, which converge to form the larger vessels that return black to the heart. The pulmonary veins empty into the left atrium of the heart, one of the four chambers of the heart. The left atrium serves as the receiving chamber for oxygenated blood returning from the lungs. Once oxygenated fills the atrium, it is pumped into the left atrium, pumped into the left ventricle, the heart's muscular chamber, responsible for pumping blood to the rest of the body. This begins a systemic circulation where oxygen-rich blood is distributed to tissues and organs throughout the body via arteries. From the left ventricle, oxygenated blood is pumped into the body's largest artery, the aorta. This vessel branches into smaller arteries, arterioles, and capillaries, effectively and efficiently delivering oxygenated blood to cells throughout the body. Systemic circulation. Systemic circulation is the extensive network of blood vessels responsible for distributing oxygen-rich blood throughout the body, ensuring that every tissue and organ receives the oxygen it needs for proper function. Here are some examples within the systemic circulation. First, we have arteries. Arteries are oxygen-rich blood ejected from the left ventricle and enters the systemic circulation through the aorta, the body's largest artery. The aorta branches into smaller arteries, which further divide into arterioles. Arteries serve as conduits for oxygenated blood, carrying it away from the heart to various tissues and organs. Arterioles. Arterioles are small, muscular vessels that regulate blood flow to tissues and organs. By constricting or dilating, arterioles control the distribution of oxygenated blood based on metabolic demands. This dynamic regulation ensures that oxygen is delivered to tissues in proportion to their needs. Capillaries allows for the exchange of gases, nutrients, and waste products. Capillaries branch into networks and they're microscopic blood vessels with thin walls that allow for the exchange of gases, nutrients, and waste products between the bloodstream and surrounding tissues. Oxygen diffuses from capillaries into tissues, while carbon dioxide and other waste products diffuse into the bloodstream for removal. Tissue oxygenation. Oxygen delivered to tissues via capillaries supports cellular metabolism, providing the energy necessary for cellular process. Every cell in the body relies on oxygen to produce the adenosine and triphosphate, the molecule that fuels the cellular activities and maintains cellular viability. Venous circulation. Deoxygenated blood returns to the heart through the veins, completing the circulation cycle. Veins merge into the larger vessels as they converge towards the heart, eventually emptying into the right atrium. From there, deoxygenated blood is pumped into the right ventricle and into the lungs for reoxygenation. And last, we have regulation of blood flow, including neural, hormonal, and local mechanisms. These mechanisms ensure that oxygen delivery is matched to the metabolic demands, maintaining tissue oxygenation and overall physiological balance. Making sure that we understand all of this process is essential for sustaining cellular function, supporting metabolic activities, and maintaining overall health and viability.
Cellular respiration is a process by which cells convert oxygen and glucose into energy, carbon dioxide, and water. It is a fundamental metabolic process that occurs in all living cells and is essential for sustaining life. Let's explore the complex details of cellular respiration. Cellular respiration begins with glycolysis, which occurs in the cytoplasm of the cell. During glycolysis, a molecule of glucose is broken down into two molecules of pyruvate. This process produces a small amount of ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, and NADH. Krebs cycle. Pyruvate generated from glycolysis enters the mitochondria where it undergoes the Krebs cycle. In this series of biochemical reactions, pyruvate is further broken down, producing additional ATP, NADH, and FADH2. The Krebs cycle also generates carbon dioxide as a byproduct. The electron transport chain is located in the inner mitochondrial membrane. During the stage of cellular respiration, electrons carried by NADH and FADH2 are passed along the series of proteins complexes, leading to the generation of large amount of ATP through oxidative phosphorylation. Oxygen serves as the final electron acceptor in the electron transport chain, combining with hydrogen ions to form water. ATP synthesis. The flow of electrons through the electron transport chain drives the pumping of protons, which are also known as hydrogen ions, across the inner mitochondrial membrane, creating an electrochemical gradient. This gradient powers ATP synthase, an enzyme that synthesizes ATP from ADP, an inorganic phosphate. ATP produced during cellular respiration is a primary source of energy for cellular activities. Role of oxygen. Oxygen plays a crucial role in the cellular respiration by serving as a final electron acceptor in the electron transport chain. Without oxygen, the electron transport chain cannot function effectively, leading to a decrease in ATP production. This highlights the essentiality of oxygen for aerobic cellular respiration. The equation for cellular respiration is glucose plus oxygen leads to carbon dioxide plus water plus ATP. Clinical relevance and examples. Impact of respiratory disorders like asthma, COPD, or pneumonia can disrupt this journey, leading to impaired oxygen exchange and cellular oxygenation. Importance of respiratory health. Maintaining healthy respiratory function is vital for the overall well-being and performance, as evidenced by harmful effects of respiratory diseases. Environmental factors, such as air pollution or smoking, can significantly affect the efficiency of oxygen uptake and the delivery in the respiratory system. Air pollution introduces harmful particles and gases into the airways, leading to inflammation and reduced lung function. Smoking damages the lungs, impairing their ability to extract oxygen from the air and deliver it to the bloodstream. Medical advancements, such as medical ventilation or oxygen therapy, as shown in the diagram, play a crucial role in improving outcomes for patients with respiratory diseases. Medical ventilation provides support to patients with compromised respiratory function, ensuring adequate oxygenation and ventilation. Oxygen therapy delivers supplemental oxygen to patients with hypoxia, optimizing oxygen levels in the bloodstream and tissues. These advancements help relieve symptoms, improve quality of life, and reduce mortality rates associated with respiratory disorders.
As we conclude our exploration of the journey of oxygen from air to cells, it's kind of evident how intricately interconnected the respiratory and circulatory systems are in ensuring the delivery of oxygen to every cell in the body. So let's take a little recap of the key points. We started off with the respiratory tract anatomy, which was comprising the nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, and lungs, and serves as the pathway for air to enter the body and reach the alveoli for gas exchange. Then we got into the gas exchange in the alveoli a bit. Within the alveoli, oxygen from the air diffuses into the bloodstream, while CO2 diffuses out of the bloodstream through exhalation. Then we looked at transport of oxygen in the bloodstream. So we talked about how oxygen molecules bind to hemoglobin in red blood cells and are transported throughout the body via the bloodstream, facilitated by the pulmonary veins and the heart's pumping actions. We went on to delivery of the oxygen to cells, where oxygen-rich blood reaches tissues and organs through the systemic circulation, where oxygen is released from hemoglobin and diffuses into cells to support cellular respiration. Then we got a little bit more into cellular respiration and how the cells utilize oxygen and glucose through cellular respiration to generate ATP, which is the energy currency of the cell, while producing CO2 and water as byproducts. And lastly, we looked at the importance of oxygen. We all know that oxygen is essential for us to live. It's essential for cellular metabolism, energy production, highlighting these critical roles in sustaining life and maintaining physiological balance. Understanding the journey of oxygen underscores the remarkable efficiency and complexity of the human body's respiratory and circulatory systems. As we continue to explore the human physiology, we should appreciate the marvels of the oxygen transport and its profound impact on our well-being. Thank you for joining us in this journey of discovery, and let's continue to explore the fascinating world of human biology together.